Rarity in the trucking world is created very differently than rarity in the sports car world. Exotic cars are preserved from day one, photographed, polished, and protected. Heavy trucks usually get the opposite fate. They are worked until the pain fades, the odometer becomes irrelevant, and the economics stop making sense. That is exactly why the surviving outliers matter so much. The trucks in this lineup are not simply old commercial vehicles. They are the improbable survivors, low production flagships, orphan brand legends, and hard-used mechanical monuments that slipped past the scrapyard and into history. Some earned their reputation through craftsmanship. Others became famous because the companies behind them vanished, import laws kept them away, or corporate decisions killed them before they had a chance to spread. Together, they tell a bigger story than horsepower figures alone ever could. They trace the ambitions of American trucking, the rise of owner-operator culture, and the machines that became collector-grade artifacts long after their working lives were supposed to end. Vehicle number 1. Marmon 57P. Among American highway tractors, few names carry the same aura of exclusivity as Marmon. A 57P was never just another Class 8 truck leaving a busy production line. Marmon built its vehicles by hand in Garland, Texas, and that method shaped the truck's entire reputation. These were not machines aimed at mass fleet turnover. They were tailored statements for buyers who wanted refinement, prestige, and a cab that felt a cut above the standard industrial norm. The 57P backed up that image with serious hardware. Its aluminum and fiberglass cab helped keep empty weight around 16,000 pounds, yet it remained certified for the standard 80,000-pound gross haul at about 70 miles per hour. Underneath the elegance, the drivelin choices were top-shelf, heavy-duty pieces, matched to luxurious interiors that often included real wood trim. That mix of craftsmanship and capability is what separated Marmon from ordinary conventionals. Production was tiny. In some years, fewer than 100 Marmon trucks of all kinds were completed. That level of scarcity made them unusual even when new. After the company shut down in 1997, the 57P changed from premium truck to collector obsession. Today, when one of these handmade Texas machines appears on the market, the contest is fierce. Sale prices in the $150,000 to $200,000 range reflect more than rarity. They reflect the appeal of owning a truck built with the logic of a bespoke instrument rather than an assembly line product. Vehicle number 2. International Harvester Transstar 4300. The Transstar 4300 became rare for the most practical reason imaginable. People used them exactly as intended. Introduced in 1971, it was not marketed as a glamorous owner-operator trophy. It was a freight-moving asset for a country in the middle of interstate expansion. In that role, International Harvester delivered a machine with a broad, purposeful hood, a steel frame built for punishment, and a cabin that prioritized function ahead of ornament. That honesty defined the 4300. It was designed to accept the biggest big-bore diesels of its day, including large V8s, and it routinely handled gross weights between 73,000 and 80,000 pounds. A comfortable 60-mile-per-hour cruise was enough because this truck was about consistency, not theater. It represented fleet economics in sheet metal form, durable, serviceable, and built to earn. Ironically, that same fleet life nearly erased it from history. High mileage, hard service, and low sentimental value meant many Transtars were written off and dismantled once the numbers stopped working. Survivors are scarce precisely because so few were protected. That has changed their standing in the collector market. What was once a disposable working tool now attracts buyers who understand its place in American logistics history. A clean, original Transstar 4300 can command roughly $50,000 to $70,000, not because it was rare when new, but because time and attrition turned a common sight into a genuine historical find. Vehicle number 3. Scania 143M. The Scania 143M is unusual on an American list of legendary trucks for a simple reason. It was never really part of the American trucking mainstream. In Europe, the 143M stood at the top of the late 1980s and 1990s cabover hierarchy. In the United States, it exists more like a sighting than a familiar model, largely because import restrictions kept it from becoming anything close to commonplace. Its reputation overseas was well-earned. As part of Scania's 3 Series, the 143M captured International Truck of the Year honors in 1989 and established itself as one of the defining European long-haul machines of its era. The centerpiece was a 14-liter V8 producing 500 horsepower, an engine remembered as much for its sound as its output. With that power and its deep reserve of torque, the truck regularly handled loads up to 97,000 pounds, while cruising at the regulated 55 miles per hour set-years pace, common in its operating environment. What American collectors find especially compelling is that the 143M brought ergonomic thinking to the cab before many U.S. trucks fully embraced that philosophy. Comfort, driver positioning, and long-distance usability were treated as engineering priorities, not afterthoughts. That combination of VA character, international prestige, and near-total absence from American roads gives the 143M its mystique here. Across Europe, it is admired. In the United States, it is exotic. Well-kept examples can exceed $80,000, and the real challenge often starts before the purchase with the legal and logistical effort required to bring one stateside at all. Vehicle number 4. Peterbilt 359. There are certain trucks that stop being products and start becoming symbols. The Peterbilt 359 is one of them. Introduced in 1967, it became the visual shorthand for the American owner-operator ideal: long hood, polished metal, dual vertical stacks, large grille, and an aluminum cab that looked every bit as deliberate as it was durable. If independence in trucking had to be rendered as a machine, the 359 would be a strong candidate. Part of its appeal came from flexibility. The truck was designed to swallow some of the biggest diesel engines available, commonly from Caterpillar, Cummins, or Detroit Diesel. That gave buyers access to the kind of power needed to pull the standard 80,000-pound gross combination weight, while still holding interstate speeds above 70 miles per hour. Starting in 1972, the 1100 series cab improved sightlines and day-to-day comfort, which mattered enormously on coast-to-coast assignments. In period, a properly equipped 359 represented a serious investment for an independent driver. Today, the economics look different, but the symbolism remains. Restored examples have become blue-chip pieces in the vintage truck market, with show-grade trucks capable of exceeding $150,000 at specialist auctions. What collectors are paying for is not just metal and horsepower. They are buying one of the clearest expressions of the golden age of the conventional American highway tractor. Vehicle number 5. Western Star 4900. The Western Star 4900 earned its reputation in places where appearance mattered far less than survival. Its roots lie in the harsh working environments of British Columbia, where logging roads, mining routes, and severe duty service asked far more of a truck than interstate cruising ever could. That origin story explains everything about the early 4900. The square-edged body, the oversized cooling setup, and the overwhelming sense that the truck was built to absorb punishment without complaint. Unlike many production line competitors, Western Star built these machines to order. Buyers specified what they needed, and the resulting trucks often left the line with reinforced steel cabs, heavily strengthened frames, and high-output Caterpillar or Cummins power plants. In working trim, they hauled timber loads up to 120,000 pounds. Even after dragging that weight through brutal terrain, they were still capable of 60 to 65 miles per hour once they found pavement. What makes them scarce now is the very work that made them famous then. Few trucks endure logging and mining service for years and emerge preserved. Most are worn out, rebuilt beyond recognition, or simply gone. That is why a surviving 1970s or 1980s 4900 with authenticity intact carries such weight among enthusiasts. These are not collectible because they were polished. They are collectible because they endured. That scarcity, combined with their made-to-order character, has pushed strong survivors past the $100,000 mark in today's market. Vehicle number 6. Dodge Bighorn. If trucking history has a great might-have-been story, the Dodge Bighorn belongs near the top. Introduced in 1973 as the CNT90 number series, it was meant to be Dodge's premier long-haul tractor, a flagship designed to compete seriously in the heavy-duty market. Its styling made the intent unmistakable. The fiberglass tilt hood gave it a massive frontal presence, and the giant chrome ram ornament announced the brand's ambitions from a long way off. Mechanically, the Bighorn was no paper tiger. Cummins power gave it the ability to handle the standard 80,000-pound legal load at about 65 miles per hour, which placed it squarely in the competitive set for interstate work. On paper, it had every reason to build a strong following. The problem was timing. Soon after launch, Dodge made the corporate decision to exit the heavy truck business altogether. That decision turned the Bighorn from a flagship into a short-lived curiosity almost overnight. Production ran only from 1973 through 1975, and the total output was an astonishingly low 261 units. Historians believe fewer than 100 survive today. That combination of abrupt cancellation and microscopic production is what elevates the Bighorn into a different category. It is not merely uncommon, it is one of the genuine crown jewels of American truck collecting. Public sales are rare enough to become events, and when a Bighorn does cross the block, the price can climb past $250,000. Few trucks carry that level of mystique. Vehicle 7, White Road Boss. The White Road Boss occupies a special niche because its rarity is tied to the collapse of the company that built it. White Motor Company was once a major force in American commercial manufacturing, and when the Road Boss arrived in 1976, it gave the brand a conventional truck with its own strong visual signature. The grille was huge. The hood line had more shape than many competitors, and the whole package offered a stronger sense of identity than the average fleet workhorse of the time. White also understood that buyers wanted flexibility. The Road Boss could be ordered with different heavy-duty drivetrains depending on the job, and Cummins or Caterpillar power made it fully capable of pulling the legal 80,000-pound limit at around 65 miles per hour. That adaptability let it work across long-haul freight, construction, and other demanding applications. Then the business side collapsed. White's bankruptcy in 1980 effectively cut the Road Boss loose from its parent brand, and the later absorption into Volvo complicated the parts picture even further. Once replacement components became scarce, many trucks were retired rather than preserved. That is how a once ordinary commercial rig turned into an orphan brand collectible. Today, the appeal of the Road Boss rests on more than styling. It represents a vanished industrial lineage. A carefully restored example is not just uncommon, it is difficult to replicate because the supply chain behind it disappeared decades ago. That scarcity has helped surviving trucks achieve values that can exceed what they originally cost when new. Vehicle 8, Kenworth W900A. The W900A occupies a fascinating position in trucking history because it succeeded as both a working machine and a cultural image maker. Produced from 1967 through 1982, it became one of the most recognizable conventionals of its era. The flat glass windshield, round headlamps, and upright stance gave it a face that was instantly identifiable, while its appearance in popular media helped fix it in the public imagination. Few trucks have balanced job site credibility and screen presence so naturally. Mechanically, the W900A built its reputation the old-fashioned way, reliability first. Many were fitted with mechanical big-cam Cummins engines making roughly 400 horsepower, and that setup gave the truck enough strength to pull the standard 80,000-pound load while cruising around 65 to 70 miles per hour. The torsion bar suspension contributed to its durability, especially on difficult western terrain where momentum and toughness mattered. There is also a historical note embedded in the name. The W stands for Worthington, honoring one of Kenworth's original founders. That kind of lineage matters to collectors, because the W900A is not just a handsome truck, it is a direct thread into one of the most important families in American trucking. Auction values above $120,000 for top survivors show how strongly the model has held its stature. The W900A still sits at the center of one of trucking's longest-running debates too, whether the great American conventional is best represented by a Peterbilt or a Kenworth. That rivalry remains part of its legend. Vehicle number 9, Mack Superliner. The Mack Superliner is what happens when a company known for toughness decides it also wants the last word in brute force image. Introduced in 1977 as the RW series, it was Mack's answer to the owner-operator market that wanted power, presence, and a truck bold enough to dominate any truck stop lineup. The Superliner did not hide its intentions. Its proportions were oversized, its posture was aggressive, and everything about it suggested that subtlety was not part of the design brief. The centerpiece was the legendary Mack E9 V8. In twin-turbocharged form, it produced around 500 horsepower, enough to make special permit loads over 100,000 pounds feel like part of the normal job description. Even with that kind of weight behind it, the truck could climb and cruise at about 65 miles per hour. In performance terms, it occupied a place few trucks ever reached. In emotional terms, the sound of a straight-piped E9 under load became part of the Superliner's mythology. That reputation is why collectors treat the model the way performance car enthusiasts treat a rare homologation special. Original Superliners were never ordinary, and surviving prime examples are now fiercely defended by the people who own them. Market values above $130,000 reflect more than nostalgia. They reflect the fact that the Superliner represented Mack at its most unapologetically ambitious. Vehicle number 10, Mack B61. Before trucking became associated with chrome, custom sleepers, and owner-operator image, there were trucks like the Mack B61 machines built around the idea that work mattered more than pace. Introduced in 1953 as part of the B model family, the B61 became the best-known version of a series that helped build mid-century America. The round fenders, narrow cab, and unmistakable silhouette gave it a timeless industrial character, but its real reputation came from an almost unbelievable tolerance for abuse. The engine at the center of that story was Mack's Thermodyne diesel. With roughly 170 horsepower, the B61 was not designed to win drag races. Typical loads sat around 60,000 pounds, and top speed was generally only 50 to 55 miles per hour. Yet when paired with Mack's famously durable transmissions, the truck developed the kind of reputation no advertising budget can buy. It simply kept going. More than 47,000 examples of this specific model were built, and production lasted until 1966. These trucks worked everywhere that mattered: highway construction, dam projects, city building, and other punishing environments where durability outranked every other metric. That labor history explains why the B61 became such an important restoration platform later on. For years, they were common and affordable. Now, restored examples, whether historically faithful or thoughtfully updated, can exceed $100,000. The B61 remains compelling because it represents an earlier idea of excellence: slow, uncompromising, and nearly impossible to wear out. Conclusion: what makes these trucks memorable is not just scarcity. It is the kind of scarcity they represent. Some are rare because production was tiny. Some survived because a handful of owners cared enough to save them. Others became important because their manufacturers disappeared, their markets changed, or their working lives were so severe that almost none were left standing. Seen together, they form a rolling archive of trucking ambition, from handmade luxury and fleet-duty pragmatism to V8 excess and near-mythical corporate misfires. They also show that the history of the highway was never written only by freight tonnage and fuel bills. It was written by design decisions, regional demands, business collapses, engineering risks, and the drivers who chose these machines as extensions of themselves. If one of these belongs at the center of the legend, which is it for you? The handmade Marmon, the vanished Dodge Bighorn, the transatlantic Scania, the muscle truck Mack, or one of the great conventional American rivals? Drop your pick in the comments. And if you want more scripts rebuilt at this level, deeper, sharper, and more original, send the next one.